Etihad Stadium that has seen the champions now clear top of the table in goal difference, plus 10 goal difference. They are leading now against Liverpool. But Tottenham Hotspur continue in their impressive form despite Hurricane and Dele Alli being injured. They defeated Leicester City by 3-1 at Wembley and had to soak up the pressure for long spells until Son Heung-min finished it off there with a late goal to give them all 3 points. Earlier on Saturday, there were wins for Manchester United, Arsenal, and Liverpool. But in the Spanish La Liga, Barcelona could only draw at Athletic Bilbao goalless. It ended at the San Mamés Stadium, while Real Madrid took the honors in the Madrid derby against Atletico Madrid. And in Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund squandered a 3-goal lead to draw 3-3 with Hoffenheim, while Bayern Munich were winners over Schalke 04. And in French Ligue 1, Paris Saint-Germain could only win by a 0-0 against Bordeaux ahead of their huge Champions League clash with Manchester United. And in Serie A, Juventus were comfortable winners away at Sassuolo, while there were wins for Inter, but Napoli could only draw away at Fiorentina. Football action continued here in Africa. The Nigeria Professional Football League Match Day 8 took center stage there on Sunday, and Abia Warriors fell to a 78-minute strike at El Kanemi Warriors, while there were wins for Eyimba International. From Group A, MFM continued to top the league, coming from 2 goals down to win their game at the Agege Township Stadium. That's what we would be talking about. Well, in the studio with me is the voice on the radio, TC Barra, this morning, coming through to analyze what happened in the world of sports, especially in football, that we saw actions across in Europe and as well in Nigeria with NPFL Match Day 8. Good morning to you, and thanks for joining me on the show.
Well, a very good morning. Glad to be here. It's a Monday morning, and yes, we still have Monday football upon us, but the weekend was agog with a lot of footballing activities, one which we're going to look at. High points, most definitely, talking point on the lips of many has been that trashing of the Blues by Manchester City, and the social media has been, has experienced some level of unrest, with that bashing. We did see record being set, history made, as it was Sergio Aguero who, everybody
got a hat trick.
Yes, indeed, equaling,
Alan Shearer's record in the league.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's a massive history in the making, news-worthy stories and talking points this morning.
Indeed, that's what we would be looking at. And let's quickly start off from that game, because Manchester City were rampant against Chelsea. 3 goals already in the first period there we could see. And all of a sudden, it looks as if Maurizio Sarri's men were reminiscent of what they were at Bournemouth, where they lost by 4-0.
First and foremost, what I want to point out is the fact that, we saw Sergio Aguero come very close, right in front of the post, just at the goal mouth, and he could not convert.
And that got Pep Guardiola scrambling all over the floor.
Exactly. But minutes later, we saw a fantastic strike. Like, he wanted to atone for his sins, with such a superb finish. We saw the struggle before that strike. We saw the resilience. We saw the determination. We saw the strength behind the shot that was made. And we saw the precision and the angle which the ball was directed towards. And it just showed you more like Sergio Aguero wanted to make a point. He wanted to prove something, but he wasn't satisfied. He banged in the second one, when everybody had tried to keep a failed offside trap. And he, without even looking at where the goalpost was, in the moments of seconds, he found the back of the net. The third goal came via the spot kick after, the wonder kid, was fouled. Someone who, was instrumental as well to Manchester City's goal scoring, prowess in yesterday's game. And in the end, one can take something away from this. Sheer determination on the part of players, can go a long way. But it is worthy to note that Chelsea were flat on the night. They were shadows of themselves. It wasn't a beautiful game for Sarri or his boys, who, we know them to play better they could have put up a more superb performance. But in such a situation where, they could not live up to expectation, one would begin to think whether this was as a result of Sarri's, technical error, and it seems like his job is hanging in the balance. But all the same, he seems to have like a very strong composure, and Abramovich may not, decide to change what has been working for him, because, for a while, once Sarri took over the reins of leadership, the managerial role, we saw Chelsea climb up. We saw Chelsea improve in football.
We saw them play fine football.
Yeah.
A football which Roman Abramovich has craved for all this time.
And I'm afraid this may just be the situation with Manchester United. Solskjaer has just had an impressive run for a while now. What happens when, he's unable to keep it coming?
Okay, you talked about the most Premier League hat-tricks, and now Sergio Aguero is up there, tied with Alan Shearer on 11 Premier League hat-tricks.
But mind you, this is over 2 decades, over 20 years.
Yep.
Chelsea have not been humiliated like this. Over 20 years. This is the first time in 26 years since, this bashing. I think sometime in when they played Wolverhampton, 8-1.
Yeah.
But it's much worse because of, Chelsea is in fine form now, and they weren't able to even find the back of the net even once.
But as much as we look at Chelsea being so melancholic on the day, we cannot deny Manchester City's brilliance. It was breathtaking football.
Yes, but take away some of the goals. Azaz Kubleta's foul on what's his name now?
Leroy Sané.
No,
Raheem Sterling.
Raheem Sterling that led to the penalty was a scramble. It was lousy.
It just epitomized what Chelsea were all about at the moment.
Exactly.
Defenses at seas, no coordination.
Now, you could have, changed that narrative. But one would have expected Sarri to, shake things a little bit, bring in a few players who could, shake things. But that was not the case.
Well, after the 2-0 defeat at Arsenal, what was telling was Sarri called for an unexpected press conference and refused to speak English. He used the translator.
Exactly. We talked about it here.
Yeah, Chelsea players are difficult to motivate. That word alone, that statement he made, Chelsea players are difficult to motivate. For me,
he just felt like the job is bigger than him.
Well, we'll look to see.
We've had locker room mishaps and situations. Even Jose Mourinho has complained about, how some players are even bigger than the team and the manager. But you're required to be a tough man, to handle players who are playing at that level. If Zinedine Zidane can deal with, Cristiano Ronaldo's personality, and they go on to win championships and get trophies, I don't think it should be a difficult job for anybody who knows his pedigree.
Well, big teams can lose games there, but when you get beaten like Chelsea were yesterday, then you can only point towards one thing, and it's the manager who has to take the blame now. So we'll look at how it happens for them and how they can improve, because the top four is very much within touching distance for them, just a point behind Manchester United, who were 3-0 winners over Fulham on Saturday and into the top four for the first time since the opening day win against Leicester City by 2-1 at Old Trafford. But let's continue with the stats here. Robbie Fowler on 9 Premier League hat-tricks. Michael Owen, Harry Kane and Thierry Henry tied on 8. Wayne Rooney on 7 and Luis Suarez on 6. So it means all of these players mentioned
have all scored hat-tricks more than 3-4 times.
Yeah, it's only Harry Kane who could still reach or surpass the Alan Shearer record, as well as Sergio Aguero, the man who's doing it at the moment, who's tied with Alan Shearer. But let's look at the match stats very quickly before we move on to other stories making the rounds in the world of sports very quickly, because Manchester City dominated possession in that game, and rightly so. 56% possession for the Sky Blues, 44 for the Blues, 15 shots for City, 9 on target. It was telling. 12 shots for Chelsea and only 4 on target. The Blues,
and none could be converted.
Yeah. So now to the stats proper. Sergio Aguero scored 8 Premier League goals for Manchester City in 2019, double that of any other player in the competition, and more than 11 other Premier League clubs have managed, including Chelsea, who has 7. Chelsea conceded 4 goals in consecutive away top flight matches for the first time since December 1990. Only Fulham, 15, have conceded more Premier League goals during 2019 than Chelsea. Chelsea is considered 13. And Manchester City became the first top flight team since Tottenham Hotspur in December 1965 to secure more than once to score more than once, I beg your pardon, in 15 consecutive home league matches. So we're talking about the improvement from Chelsea's perspective. And they traveled to Swedish side Malmo in the Europa League on Thursday. That one coming from 20:00 Greenwich Mean Time. That's 9 p.m. in Nigeria. While Manchester City turned their attentions to Newport County in an FA Cup tie next Saturday. City do not play this week in Europe until the other week. So an opportunity for Chelsea here to right the wrongs against Malmo in the Europa League. And fortunately for them, no disrespect to Malmo, it's a side the Blues can use their second string side and try and gain some confidence. Okay, let's quickly look at other results making the rounds from Europe before we move over to Nigeria Professional Football League. Tottenham Hotspur were 3-1 winners over Leicester City. Heung-min Son, Davinson Sanchez on the score sheet for Sports. TC Barra, despite their injury worries, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Harry Kane top goal scorer for them. We could see him there in the top goal scoring chart on 14 goals there. Mohamed Salah and Sergio Aguero has got 17. So Kane has missed already a month of football action, but he's to return in March, early March. How has that miss affected Tottenham? But before we look at how it has affected them, they've done ever so well in the absence of the two.
Yes, indeed. I would not have, but I could not agree any less because Tottenham Hotspur under Mauricio Pochettino have been, very impressive. We talk about, the fact that it may actually affect them in the long run. Talking about some of these players who, are absent due to one injury or the other. Top on the list, Dele Alli and Harry Kane, who his impressive goal scoring form, would have been an added advantage for the games they're prosecuting. But somehow, somewhere, they've been able to manage. That tells you the team is compact. And yes, they've been able to play, as a team, not individually. Because once a particular person is missing, you can, you could cover up.
Yeah,
most times and see if some of the loose gaps or spaces or cracks in the wall that may be experienced wouldn't be experienced in the long run, and that's what has worked for Tottenham Hotspur so far.
Okay, talking about manager Mauricio Pochettino now, his favorite on the list there to take over the Manchester United job there. He's had to deal with a lot of things there. This season, Tottenham have not made a single signing due to their commitments with their new stadium for which they would move into
White Hart Lane.
And the new White Hart Lane anytime soon there. So looking at Mauricio Pochettino and what he's been able to build at the club.
If I think he's good enough for Manchester United.
No, he is good enough. He's first choice. But comparing him with what Ole has done in a short period of time.
Well, I'm just thinking, Ole, if the job is taken away from him, it might seem as though, he wasn't ripe enough to take over the job. But if he's good enough to take over on an interim basis and has done tremendously well in the last 4 or 5 fixtures and more, why don't you give him a shot on a permanent basis?
But we've seen caretaker bosses come in, stabilize the
and
ship
just go away
and do very well. Maybe win trophies at the end of the season there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really go well the next season, and they are shown the exit door. Like instance, Roberto Di Matteo with Chelsea
exactly,
coming in, winning the Champions League, FA Cup, double there for Chelsea, and in the process winning Chelsea's first European trophy right there.
Watching Ole on the sidelines against Fulham on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And seeing Manchester United banging the goals and the way they played, they played like they were invincible. They played with some level of confidence.
They didn't even need to get out of second gear.
Do you understand? It was a game where you're watching and you saw that this was cruise control for Manchester United. Something that was usually lacking from Mauricio Pochettino for Jose Mourinho. Another point in time, you could see the brilliance in the way Marshall, connected with what's the French guy's name again? Paul Pogba, and how everybody in front worked together to ensure there was no selfish play. from midfield to strike back to defense, there was like a level of coordination that left Claudio Ranieri's men on the back foot. And at that point, you begin to wonder, if this guy was given a chance on the long run, would he make Manchester United better? Because Manchester United suffered, a great deal at the start of the
The
season.
atmosphere was toxic.
Yes, indeed. And, it seemed like it was only going to get worse. It was going to be like a volcanic eruption and, molten magma and lava all over the place and destructive elements.
Maybe no disrespect to Jose, but the next week at the helm of affairs, things could have really gone bad.
I'm telling you, if he continued to remain there. But Ole has come in and has, changed things around. And
in 8 short weeks.
Yes, and improvement has been experienced in the way they play and the level of confidence. And the support has become even more massive, for the Red Devils. Giving him a chance to continue would just be the way to go. But you wouldn't say that Mauricio Pochettino is not a better manager owing to the number of years of experience and what he's been able to do with, the Spurs. Well, Tottenham is not as big as Manchester United in quotes.
Okay.
As regards finances and revenue generation, the business part of the deal.
And of course, history and tradition.
Exactly. So it may just be a big move for Pochettino to go over to Manchester United, but he's going to also be playing the same side. Is the management willing to let go of him? There's a whole lot of questions, and don't forget the fact that people cannot say no when it comes to the right price.
Indeed. But looking at their game against Paris Saint-Germain, let's quickly talk about that one. What are you envisaging? Because it looks as if this is where Solskjaer's mettle would really be tested, because previous manager Jose Mourinho has got a pedigree when it comes to Europe. Obviously, 2 times Champions League winners there. And when he sets his side up, the very well and organized manager when he was in his prime, talking about Jose. So will Solskjaer be tested against Paris Saint-Germain? What kind of game are you expecting? There is no Neymar Jr. Edinson Cavani pulled out at the weekend against Bordeaux after scoring a penalty. He was replaced by Kylian Mbappe. An opportunity here for Manchester United.
Well, the Red Devils have a serious game in hand. And Ole, what this is going to be is a psychological, game for him, basically, where he has to psych his boys to tell them that this is something that they can achieve. Going out and getting good results from the French-based side. But advantage to Manchester United, the absence of Neymar, who got injured, the last game which he played, and who may require surgery. I'm not so sure about that. Edinson Cavani, like you rightly said, out of the game. And these are some of the very prominent figures in Paris Saint-Germain. Notwithstanding, PSG still has, one of the best teams in the world, not just the French Ligue 1, but in the world, in Europe and in the world. And that's why, the array of players such as Neymar would want to play for, a team like that.
Yeah, like PSG.
Indeed. So it's going to be a cracker. But I'm looking at the situation where if Manchester United players don't feel shy, going out to play them, they're, in the right frame of mind, we may just be in for a surprise.
We may just be in for a surprise, in the words of the voice on the radio there. Manchester United versus PSG in the first leg of the round of 16 of the Champions League. Well, let's look at other results making the rounds from Syria. Bologna 1, Genoa 1, Atalanta 2, SPAL 2013 1, Torino 1, Udinese 1, Ola Aina on the score sheet there for Torino. Sampdoria fell at home to Frosinone, 1-0. Well, Juventus were superb in their win over Sassuolo away from home. Emre Can, Cristiano Ronaldo on the score sheet for the old ladies. And Milan were home and dry against Cagliari, 3-0 at the Stadio Giuseppe Meazza. In the Spanish La Liga, Leganes 3, Real Betis 0. A good win there for the Cucumbers. Valencia 0, Real Sociedad 0. Sevilla 2, Eibar 2. And Athletic Bilbao played out a goalless draw with Barcelona at San Mamés, with Barcelona unlucky not to get all 3 points. Lionel Messi's chipped effort cannoning off the crossbar. And to the German Bundesliga there, we saw wins for Bayern Munich on Saturday. Borussia Dortmund threw away a 3-goal lead to draw 3-3. But on Sunday, Werder Bremen served Augsburg 4-0 at the Weserstadion, while newly promoted Fortuna Düsseldorf beat VfB Stuttgart 3-0. Then in French Ligue 1, Nantes fell to Nîmes by 4-2. there in Nantes. Toulouse 1, Reims 1, Montpellier 2, Monaco 2 at the Stade de la Mosson, Guingamp 0, Lille 2, Rennes 3, Saint-Etienne 0, and Nice saw of Lyon by 1-0 at the Allianz Riviera. So now let's switch our attentions to Nigeria, because NPFL Match Day 8 fixtures were littered across major cities in the country on Sunday, and we did have exciting results coming through that. But let's begin with Abia Warriors. After 2 straight wins, they fell at Maiduguri to inform El Kanemi Warriors.
Innocent Gabriel was the stinger, was the one who pulled the trigger at 78 minutes. And it was a sad one for Abia Warriors, who had held on to that scoreline until it was 12 minutes to, just put a spoiler to the unbeaten run that Abia Warriors have been enjoying for some time now. But something that I'm sure that manager would work on. But they have a tougher task ahead of them when, they get to face Raphael Everton-led side in Aqua United next week. It's going to be a very big fixture because of, I think it's on the 13th. It's this Wednesday. It's midweek. Yeah, Raphael Everton should have been a manager for Abia Warriors until, we had Emmanuel Dutch take over the reins. But as it stands now, he'll be coming back to prove a point because Aqua United boasts of a lot of players who were in Abia State, one in Fonodo who was in Eimba, and the other in the Freka Effiong, who used to play for Abia Warriors, and who I'm sure they greatly miss. His combination up front with Obi Samson used to be very lethal, and now having to combine with the likes of Fonodo and most of the 12 players that were signed by the promise keepers is going to be a massive encounter at the Omar Township Stadium on the 13th day of February, and I hope that manager, the coach, will be able to provide a tactical formation.
Got his tactics spot on.
That will, hold those very pacey players. These are players who we've known them. They are renowned. Fonodo is the current highest goal scorer in the Nigerian profession. Nobody's been able to surpass the number of goals, he scored over time, really.
But in as much as the Aqua United players have their antecedents, it's not been a great season for them so far.
Yes, it's not, but
so it will really be a test of what those players are made of.
Having fallen in the opening game, I think against El Kanemi as well, of the Nigerian, and at home, Raphael has been able to have his hands, try to pick up a draw away, pick up wins away.
Well, sources say Raphael came in and tried to do a total revamp instead of still sticking with the players who made Aqua United a little bit thick the last season. He tried to bring in the new players.
What do you expect, David? Especially the fact that you have as much as 12, 15 new signings at your disposal.
We know in terms of changing players, it could take a little bit of time before people acclimatize to the situation. And you ease in players, not just a total revamp.
Why you'd say that is as a result of the fact that Aqua United seem to have posited a very beautiful superlative performance last season that we saw the debacle that happened and Lobby Stars had to emerge as Lobby Stars emerged as champions. But a situation where we had the players currently in Aqua United still playing for them. It was the same set of players. You wouldn't have said he was revamping the team, so to say.
Well, to whom much is given, much is expected, and Aqua United will be expected to begin to do well and pick up points there. Well, their last game there in Damaturu, they won by a goal to nil, courtesy of Fonodo. But they'll be up against newly promoted Kada City at the Nest of Champions today. Then one of the games to be played out there, as well as Gombe United versus Nasarawa United. Other scores to come through from the NPFL Match Day 8 yesterday. Kano Pilisov, Yobe Desert Stars at the Sani Abacha Stadium by 3-1. Rabio Ali on the score sheet for Shema Sugida. El Kanemi Warriors 1, Abia Warriors 0. Plateau United 1, Go Round FC 0, and Heartland and FC Fanyuba played out a 1-1 draw in the Oriental Derby in Okigwe. Quickly now to the Group A side of things. Kwara United 1, Wiki Tourist 0. Lobby Stars, Rivers United, and Bendel Insurance Rangers International postponed. Eimba International 1, Remo Stars 0 at
that particular game. was a game where the goal scorer in that particular encounter came off the bench to score that goal, and something very fantastic happened, and that's the fact that a section of the crowd started clamoring for the player not to be put on the bench anymore.
Well, because of our time, we may not be able to put up that audio for you, what TC is talking about with the fans there saying Onoa should no longer be on the bench there. He should be starting games. He was a starter for Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministries Football Club, MFM FC. But since coming to Ayimba, it looks as if Usman Abdallah have tried to ease
Play
him
down,
in. A little bit. Well, I think the goal will do a massive boost to his confidence right there. Then MFM FC had to come from 2 goals down to defeat Niger Tornadoes.
It was massive.
3 goals to 2.
It was mind-blowing to see that the Mountain of Fire Miracles side, could post such determination, especially in front of a home crowd. I'm sure, they did not disappoint the teaming supporters who had come out to see that particular game. It was, reminiscent of the Nigeria-Brazilian game in the Olympics. And any scoreline that, seems to look like what that is would always remind you of that particular Nigerian-Brazil encounter. But in the end, say kudos to them. The Lukowe boys have been very massive, and we can always hope that, they will get better.
We can only hope they will get better. And indeed, they are getting better as they remain top of the log. 15 points they've garnered after 7 matches played. They're 5 ahead of second place Ayimba International. Katsina United, third on the log on 9 points. And Rivers United, who play Sunshine Stars today, they completes the top 4 on 9 points. Well, the bottom 3 looks like this. 10th on the log, Niger Tornadoes, 6 points. Remo Stars of Shagamu, 5 points. 11th on the log, and Lobby Stars, 4 points there. Bottom of the log.
Sadly, continental engagements must have taken a toll on Lobby Stars, who played at the Ape Aku Stadium. The Makodi-based team will find it difficult to bounce back. I wonder how it's going to spell for them. But I already had mentioned earlier on, on this platform, that the sheer fact that, Lobby Stars were not, worthy champions, in my own opinion, because of the way the league went. It wasn't a concluded league, and they were named champions. It was very difficult because a whole lot needed to have been put in place for them to, prosecute this continental engagement. At some point, they had to start playing in Enugu State, which wasn't very, it wasn't working really.
Well, Lobby Stars in action against Wydad Casablanca in the CAF Champions League match day 4. This midweek. Well, quickly now to the Group B side of things because we are out of time here. FC Fanyuba are currently topping but are tied with El Kanemi Warriors, both on 15 points, but goal difference separates both teams. Heartland in third position on 13 points, and Kano Pillars completes the top 4 on 11 points. The bottom 3 looks like this. Kada City will have a game today against Aqua United. They're 10 on the log, 7 points. Yobe Desert Stars, 6 points, 11th on the log, and Gombe United, 5 points, bottom of the log. Well, that's how far we can go with Flosports this morning. Many thanks to all the staging. And a big thank you to TC Barra for coming through.
Yes, indeed. You can follow us on social media, facebook.com/Flow949FM, and on Twitter at Flow949FM. You can actually, watch this clip over and over again on YouTube. It is FlowFM 949. YouTube.com/FlowFM949.
Indeed. But set your alarms and reminders for Monday Night Football, the review show here from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., where we look to review everything that happened in the world of sports. Have a lovely day ahead.